What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Life Lessons Laugh Sessions YouTube channel. Hope everybody's taking care and staying safe during this insane time. Today I want to talk about something that we often don't think about, but I know that it affects everyone with a chronic illness that I know of, and that is the burden of proof of your illness. Now, I know that sounds kind of weird and that is like a law term, but it applies to having a chronic illness also. And I want to break it down for everybody, who it applies to, what it applies to, the different areas of your life, because really, when you get down to it, having an illness isn't just something that you have. It's often something that you have to prove that you have, or prove that you can live with in every single area of your life. So I want to break that down for everybody, whether you have a chronic illness that you just got your diagnosis and you're just starting to understand what that's all going to entail for you, or if you have someone you love that has a chronic illness, or if you employ someone with a chronic illness. This is also good information for you to have. So let's dive in. I think it can be difficult for people to grasp what is meant when someone says they have a chronic illness. I know that for myself, I've had my illness my entire life. If you've been to other videos on this channel, you know that already, but it can be difficult for people to comprehend that, even people I've known for a really, really long time, that your illness is chronic even on the days when you look fine. So with a lot of chronic illnesses that I'm aware of, you have ebbs and flows. So you have days that you can function and seem okay, and then you have other days when you're basically stuck and you can't do anything, and you might have a pain flare, you might have a symptom flare, whatever. It's just you have days that you basically can't do anything. And the trouble with a chronic illness is that you never know what the next day is going to look like, or even the next hour is going to look like, which makes planning anything a freaking nightmare and virtually impossible. And it also makes you have to cancel on lots of plans or change lots of plans last minute, and often people hate that. You're not doing it on purpose, and it is never ever ever your fault if you're doing it, okay? You're doing it for your health. That's not your fault. And it's not something to feel guilty about, even though if you're like me, you do anyway. But all that is out of your control, and that can make it really, really difficult for not just you, but for the people around you, which can make it even trickier on the days that you're feeling well, or on the days that you have tolerable symptoms. Let me explain. Oftentimes, like, I can't even count the number of times this happens, on days when I'm having tolerable pain. Let me make this clear. I've had migraine level pain 24/7 since 2014. So I can't remember what it's like to not have a headache. I literally, I can't. No memory. But on the days when it's tolerable enough that I can function, like today, like I ran an errand today, and sometimes I can do that. I might pay for it later, but today I could do that. And on the days that I can function, a lot of the time, and I mean a lot of the time, I get people being like, oh, so you're better. Oh, you feel better. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that's great. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like my illness diagnosis has just disappeared, or that it's just gone, and that because you have one good day, then poof, everything's better. And that's just not the case. And I think that there's a difficulty in connecting the dots for a lot of people that don't experience it, that just because you look fine doesn't mean you're fine. And just because you look okay doesn't mean you're okay. Like, I look fine today. My headache level's probably like on my scale, not on the normal pain scale, which is another really, really funny thing that I'll talk about later. But for my tolerance level is probably like an 8 out of 10, which, you know, for a lot of people on the normal pain scale, 8 out of 10, you go to the hospital. You just do for anything. But for so many of us with a chronic illness, when you're dealing with chronic pain, you don't have 0. Your baseline is not 0. My baseline is probably like an 8. So for so many of us, you can't judge that system for what your body's doing because you don't have the baseline that everybody else does. When you're dealing with someone who has a chronic illness, their definition of fine is way different than a healthy person's version of fine. A healthy person's version of fine is nothing. It is 0. It is 0 symptoms. It is 0 pain. It is 0. When you're dealing with someone who has a chronic illness or chronic pain of any kind, like whatever, if we're talking arthritis, if we're talking gut issues, anything, their baseline is some level of pain or discomfort, and it's always there. So when someone with a chronic illness tells you they're fine, don't think of it as they have no symptoms. Think of it as they have the level of symptoms that allows them or affords them the ability to function at a level that they can. I know for a lot of people that is way different than what a person without an illness or without pain's level of fine is. And I've had several doctors, which is very, very funny that medical professionals are quite often a huge group that don't understand the connection between a chronic illness and fine not equaling 0 symptoms or 0 pain. Like, I don't understand how it's that hard to understand, but they do. And so often I've had doctors, when they ask me, how are you feeling? I'm fine. They're like, oh, awesome. So your symptoms are totally manageable and tolerable and all that stuff. That's not what that means. That fine is not awesome. If it was awesome, we'd say it was awesome. We'd say we're having a great low pain day, or we're having an awesome low symptom day. Fine means we're tolerating it. Fine means we can get out of bed. Anything else? Extra. Anything else is extra. So it's so important to know the difference and the completely different definitions of the terminology when you're dealing with someone who has a chronic illness or chronic pain. And if you want to know what their level of fine is, ask them. Seriously, ask them. When I have people ask about my illness for anything, it makes my heart want to explode, because it shows that you care. You're not being pushy, you're not being annoying, you're not pruding, or whatever the heck that word is. You're not intruding. Like, you're not asking crazy personal medical questions. Those are a little, don't do that. But if you want to know how someone is feeling and they tell you they're fine, if you know that they have a chronic illness or chronic pain, ask them what their level of fine is, so that in the future, if they tell you that they're fine, and you know from asking that their level of fine basically means that their pain is like off the charts and they're just holding on for dear life, but they can function if they have to, then you know. And if you want to help them with something or anything, like if you live in the same house, if you want to help them with something they have to get done, or you want to make a meal for them because you know that they're going to struggle to do that, then you can, because you know. It's not rude, it's not hurtful, it's wonderful, because you care enough to want to know. You care enough to want to help us. And that, honestly, when people do that, it makes me want to cry. In a good way. In a very, very good way. It just makes me want to cry. Because when people know what your levels are, they can gauge how they react to it because they know. So when my people hear me tell them that I'm fine, they know that it's not a good day. They know that it's, again, holding on for dear life here. Like on the couch, I can get up and do things if I have to, but it's not a good day. And it's because you care enough to ask that question that you're able to know the difference. And you're able to know and learn that healthy fine isn't the same as chronic illness or chronic pain fine. And I think we need to have more of that conversation so that more people are aware, because that's not something they teach anywhere. Anywhere. Medical school, regular school, I haven't been a doctor that figured that out yet. Except for like 3. There's been 3 and they get it, but it's rare. Seriously, it's rare. It's ridiculous that it's that rare, but it is. So more dialogue is how we will create that meaningful change, okay? We need more of that. Another person that relies on the burden of proof when you're dealing with a chronic illness or chronic pain is yourself. I'm not the only one. I know this. When you have a chronic illness or chronic pain, you don't always listen to your body's cues, and you should. Okay, let me rephrase that. Most of the time, you don't listen to your body's cues, and you should. I know that rarely do I take my own advice in terms of resting and taking a breather on the days when I really, really should. On the days when it's horrible and I don't have a choice because I literally can't function, then I will, because I don't have a choice and my body just won't let me move. But on the days when my pain and symptoms are awful, but still I'm fine, like I can stand up and not fall right back down, I can function and not pass out or throw up right away, then I'll push it, because I don't know if tomorrow my pain will get worse and then I won't be able to do anything. And you feel guilty for having to rest, and then you feel like you have to prove to yourself that you can function and that you're fine. And that burden of proof is a bunch of crap and it's a bunch of garbage, and we have to stop it. Seriously, it has to stop. When you live with a chronic illness and chronic pain, one or the other, or both, you don't have to prove to yourself that you can do things. I'm saying this for myself as well as all of you. You don't have to prove anything to yourself. The fact that you woke up this morning, badass. Awesome. If you can do anything else without pushing yourself, I'm talking about, you know what your limit is for the day, don't even approach it. Don't go near it. If you can do anything under that limit, that's amazing. That is awesome. That is fantastic. You're doing stuff. Even if that's just getting out of bed and putting on some clothes instead of pajamas, which I did today. Woo! Amazing. That's enough. We need to stop the whole dialogue and thing that you have to prove that you can function and that you're a productive member of society in spite of your illness. Because just, no, that's hurtful. No, that's how we overdo it. That's how we do more than we should. That's how we cause unnecessary flares and unnecessary just symptom attacks and all that stuff. And for what? For what? Just no. It doesn't help anybody, because it makes us feel like crap during and after. And then you get people who know you being able to read your face and read what you're doing and know that you're full of crap when you're saying that you can do things, when your face just screams that you're in pain and that you're having a rough day. And then you just feel guilty for the subsequent flare or symptom attack that comes after because you overdid it. No, that is not, we're not doing that anymore. And like I said, I'm saying this for myself too because I do it all the dang time. All the time. And that has to stop. Seriously, we have to stop. This isn't something you want. You're not having this illness for fun. You're not having these symptom attacks and pain attacks because there's nothing better to do. You're not, okay? So we need to stop acting like it is. We need to stop acting like we're doing this on purpose, or that when we can't do the things we want to do or think we have to do, that we have to prove that we're too sick to do them, which I know that we feel like we have to do that too, especially when your illness is invisible, like mine. Like, you can't tell that I'm sick. I don't look, there's nothing on my body that you can tell that I have an illness, unless you came up and you touched the shunts on my head, which, don't do that. Unless someone tells you that it's fine, don't do that. But just we need to stop because it's toxic. This isn't something you did on purpose. This isn't something anybody wants. It's not. And it's not something we should feel guilty for. So why in the world do we feel like we have to prove it? And I know that I feel like I have to prove it a lot when, again, you look at me and you can't tell that I'm sick, but there's days stuck on the couch. Can't move. I look fine, minus the pain eyes, and anyone with a chronic illness knows the pain eyes. We all have them. It's like you're dead inside. There's nothing there. And other than that, you can't tell, and I look fine. But we need to stop this whole needing to prove any which way that we're well enough to function on the days that we feel well enough, or need to rest on the days when we need the rest, even if we look fine. Okay? We just need to stop proving and just exist. Just exist. So I know this is hard, and I know this is going to take a lot of education and a lot of communication with everybody and in all areas, with your friends, with your family, with your support group, with your doctors, with your work, with employers of all kinds, with government because of sick leave for different areas and the burden of proof with doctor's notes and all that stuff. And all those things, and with yourself. And I think that's the most important one, is that we need to give ourselves a break and stop trying so hard to prove any which way that our body is different. And on the days we need rest, and on the days that we're fine, we're okay, but we're not better. And I think communication is the only way we can do that. And anything that we want to change requires communication. So I think we just need to keep the conversation going. And if you haven't started it yet with your people, just open it up. Just have a discussion. It doesn't have to be a long one. It doesn't have to be judgy. It doesn't have to be all about these lessons. Just have a conversation, because that's how we make a change. You can't know there's something to change if nobody brings up that it has to be changed. So have that discussion so that we can stop having to prove ourselves any which way, because nobody should have to prove themselves. Okay? It doesn't help anybody. Whether you're ill or you're healthy, you just shouldn't have to prove yourself. It's toxic, it's not helpful, and I think the world would be a lot better place if we just all accepted each other and ourselves for exactly how we are and as we are, because that's all you can be is yourself, and the world just needs you as you are, and because you're doing the best you can, and that is enough. That's enough. You're doing awesome. So as always, you guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Anytime I get views On the videos, I want to cry because I know that someone saw it, and if that person gets a little help from the video, then I've done my job and that's enough. If you want to subscribe, if you're new here, that would mean the world. If you want to share this with someone you think might find it helpful, please do, feel free. The blog post is at the bottom, the link is right there. And as always, take care of yourselves. You're doing the best you can and you're doing an awesome job. Take care and stay safe, everybody. Toodles!